Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of JaianMusic Notes. Very excited about today's episode. Today, my guest is James Landino, a composer, an entrepreneur, a DJ who's been involved in so many different types of franchises. We're speaking Fortnite, Sonic the Hedgehog, Tower of God, RWBY, someone who's really redefined the landscape of anime music with official remixes for the song Colors, who's collaborated with Flow, Kumi Koda, Nano, who's open for Lisa, someone who I am extremely inspired by and I cannot believe took the time to sit down with me today. So please enjoy the James Landino interview. James, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing good, man. Like I said, it's a beautiful day in Tokyo, and I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing very good. I'm so excited to get into your entire musical catalog and universe. Let's just start with the very beginning. Like, how did the music become a thing for you? Because obviously there's a lot of DJing, there's a lot of music performance, audio directing. It's like a full body of work. But I'd love to know like the tipping point of that for you, like how you even flood into that universe.
So there's a whole story, but so I started piano when I was 5. My parents had a rule for my brother and I, which was that you had to play an instrument, from kindergarten all the way to the end of high school. That was the rule, no choices. I actually hated music, which sounds absurd to say where I'm at now, but I genuinely had a dislike for music because this is back in the 90s. I'm born in 92, and this is back in the 90s where the only thing you could, the music that I was exposed to was just music on the radio, and so I just didn't really click with it. But even from an early age, I got exposed to video games, and without realizing it, I was just falling in love with video game music. I'd put like a Game Boy, like the old school Game Boy that had the built-in speakers. I used to put the Game Boy to my ear, like a conch shell. I didn't know headphones existed yet, but I was like, oh, dude, I love video game music. I'm gonna put this to my ear, just listen to Pokemon, red and blue. So something tapped in that I loved video game music. So I knew I always wanted to work on video games since I was a child, just like making games, right? And I would say at the age of 12, I found this online game called Flash Revolution, which is a Flash-based fan game of Dance Dance Revolution. And on the website where the game was platformed on, they had submissions for anyone who wanted to write music for this game. And I was like, oh my God, I technically know piano. What if I wrote music for games? And that was the genesis of where we're at now.
Right. I love that. And there's also like obviously like career wise more like I was looking into Harmonix music systems and like there's like so much like work there at Rock Band, and I would love to know like what on like a technical side as an audio technician too. There's a lot to learn. It's a big learning curve in there. Like, what experience do you feel like you got from a technical side, and how did that like introduce itself into game music composition, like post Harmonix music systems?
When it comes to Harmonix, from the technical side, because I had written music for games for several years before I worked at Harmonix. I worked for them right after I graduated college, and that was my first experience really being in the trenches of game development. So I wasn't learning just the music side, but the integrations of how music is literally integrated with art, with coding, with design, and all the overlapping disciplines of that. So Harmonix, I was there for 4 years, and it was a great time for me to really understand how games are made at the literal like ground floor level, as opposed to being a composer. In most cases as a composer, we're usually we're involved. We're kind of on the outside looking in, more so than come from the in looking out. If that makes sense. So Harmonix really helped me build like a core foundational understanding of how games are made at a professional level. That was by far the biggest thing. The other big thing that Harmonix taught me, in both good and bad ways, I would say, admittedly, is that if your team, what matters most is your team. If you like the team, your enjoyment of the team you're with is always more important than the project that you're actually making. Because there were projects at Harmonix that I was going to be really excited about, but the team and I didn't click. Vice versa, the projects that I wasn't really excited about, I loved the team, and it was the most fun I ever had.
I love to get also like because one thing that I found super cool is like I'm a huge Sonic fan. I'm a huge Sonic fan.
Oh, yeah.
And I see in your videos like the shadow necklace. Like I think in that sense, like obviously we're cut from the same fan game cloth, and I'd love to know like what like drew you into the fan community of Sonic. Like even with like if we can talk about your remix of Mirage Saloon Zone. Like I would love to just like your whole like outlook on the Sonic thing and like take it to the remix whenever you see fit.
Yeah. Well, so unsurprisingly, I love Sonic. It's one of my favorite franchises growing up. Fun fact, my neighbor, I'm not joking. My neighbor, growing up in Connecticut was Johnny Goelli from Crush 40, which is the craziest small world moment of all time. Oh, it's unbelievable. Like technically it was like 10, 15 minutes away from me, but like his family was next door to me and we'd see it just crazy small world moment. But that's not why I got into Sonic, of course. It's more of like, oh wait, that was like a side quest realization. Like, wait, what the F, you know? But I think as far as the fan game stuff came about, when I was a freshman in college at Berklee College of Music, I met someone. His name is Falk Young. Online, he went by Bald Falk, which for people involved in the fan game community was a very prominent Sonic fan game composer. And so he's the one. So at Berklee, you know, this is around 2010, 2011 time, where the game industry as a whole was really excited about AAA. A lot of the music that people were excited about, Western wise, was like Hans Zimmer style music, that kind of Call of Duty, and that's cool. That wasn't for me, but a lot of the students in my program with me, they wanted to write that kind of music. But Falk and I, we love Japanese music, or like Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario, Dance Dance Revolution, like things like that. These days, a lot of composers online are really celebrating, music that is like, there's a lot more composers who are writing in that style that's inspired by Japanese composers, that kind of DTM style, that jazz fusion style. But turn the clock 15 years ago, that was not the case. There's very few composers excited about that. And so basically, it literally was just Falk and I in a little corner being like, hey, come with me. Like, I want to, like, let's write Sonic fan game music together. And I was like, hell yeah. So he was the one who got me exposed to that world of fan games and all the amazing opportunities and friends I've made from that part of my life.
Absolutely, and I'd be remiss to ask. Like, I have to get into like, thanks to you, I found out about a little thing called Sonic Expo, and I love the concept of that. I love the fact that you can like go out there, really be yourself, and like seeing you DJ on your YouTube channel. Like, I really felt the passion for the game in there. How did the opportunity to like even participate in Sonic Expo come to be?
So I was on tour with a Japanese artist called Nano. She's a very popular any-song artist of many years. Amazing singer, amazing composer. We actually wrote a song together for a game called Omega Strikers. And so I think through that, she then invited me onto her first USA tour. Fast forward to that, I was doing a show in Texas, and and I met someone who I've eventually learned was the owner, or at least the showrunner of Sonic Expo, because they were also based out of Texas. And we met up, and they were like, "Hey, I love your stuff. I'd love to invite you to this thing called Sonic Expo. It's our second year doing it, I believe." And I was like, "Oh yeah, hell yeah, sounds amazing. Keep me in touch." And yeah, so it all worked out. Have you been there?
No, I haven't, but I'm definitely like I found out about it through you essentially, and I think it's like so nice how you said in your video. I'm gonna paraphrase here, but like seeing the vibe, the crowd, and the energy of it, like it's a really like it's definitely like on my bucket list now because of like
Awesome.
seeing it. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. No, it really is. It really is a great event. I'm sure I'll be going back for future years as well. The team's amazing. The people are amazing. Just a lot of, and this may sound like a negative, but I mean a real positive. I think sometimes with fandom, for better or worse, it can be a little intense.
Hmm.
But Sonic Expo is just so chill. Like it is just a real love and celebration of Sonic fandom, and then people making friends within that, right? It's not just, yeah. It's not like a Sonic the Hedgehog, like who's a better fan contest. It's really just a general celebration, all positive, all good vibes.
I really like that. And you mentioned this is like you're reading my mind at this point, but like Omega Striker is like a super popular game, a game that like a lot of my friends have mentioned to me in passing, and something I'm gonna get more into. I'd love to hear like your perspective on the development of that game because like even if you have any untold stories or like experiences, because I know that working in video games it's a very difficult thing.
It is a very difficult thing. And
Yeah.
Omega Strikers, what I probably my favorite story that I tell a few times, but it means a lot to me is so the Omega Striker soundtrack is a pretty involved, like pretty deep. It's like we wrote a lot of music for that thing, and it includes a lot of like featured artists and collaborators and composers. And to be honest, that was never the plan. That was never supposed to break. So the original plan was they hit me up to write the theme song "Ghost Strike," and that was it. And in fact, the game was never going to have much other music than like menu music or just little stingers, right? But it actually, and this goes to massive props to my good friend and amazing collaborator, Garrett Williamson, who wrote music for Omega Strikers and many other amazing soundtracks like No Shade Roads, Date Everything Now, amazing composer. Anyways, so I got hit up to write. The Omega Strikers dev team asked me to write music for a trailer for one of their upcoming characters, Aimee. And I was like, hey man, I'm so sorry. I'm in Tokyo right now. There's no way I can write this trailer music. But my friend Garrett, because the deadline was due in like 3 days. They were like, hey man, we really need this trailer music. Oh, cool. When to do? Oh, in 3 days. I'm like, that's not going to work. I'm in a whole other continent. There's no effing way. But Garrett, he's available. He's awesome. Let me connect you with him. And so he writes a song in like 24 hours, which is just absurd. And not only that, he knocks it out of the park. And so the trailer comes out, and all of the social media comments are like, "Oh my god, like sick character, but this song is actually kind of a banger. Where can I listen to it?" And that was the genesis of that thought of, wait a minute, what if every character in the game had their own theme song? And that was the beginning of everything. So thanks to Garrett crushing it, because I wasn't available, we now have this amazing soundtrack that I'm super proud of that just covers so many genres and styles. It's just a total love letter of music that I love, and that, bringing in all my friends, who are musicians. It was just an amazing soundtrack experience. All because of a whim of Garrett just being the man.
What's that reaction like? Like when you find out that they're planning on doing like a song per character, like is your brain melting down? Are you excited? Is it like euphoria? Like I'd love to know, like just put me in your mind in that moment.
I mean, that moment, I'm just like, let's go. As a professional in the industry, at least how I look at it is, yes, some of these deadlines, some of these like these assignments on paper are really daunting, pretty scary. But my mentality, I'm like, challenge accepted. Let's figure this out. Like I know I can do it. I know with the team I have, we can do it. So it is and the immediate thought is, oh shit, like we're doing it. Can we do it? But then of course after like a minute settles in, I'm like, oh hell yeah, we can do this. We'll crush it. And so I come with a lot of excitement and positivity on these kind of projects like that.
I love that. I love that attitude. I think it's such a contagious attitude as well. Just hearing you talk about it, like it's a very exciting process. As a big anime fan, I love to like get into like your works with Tower of God, obviously RWBY, which Mason Lieberman correctly corrected me. It's like it's not anime because it's made in the West. I remember in the interview, I mentioned it and I was like, oh okay, like I'm thinking there, so I'm like more cautious when I mention it. But I'd love to like get into like Tower of God and then like maybe dribble into RWBY, like just like that those first few series. Would love to get into that.
I'm gonna correct Mason on this one. RWBY is absolutely an anime because what? So if most animation studios are produced by like a lot of Japanese anime is produced by Western studios or by Korean studios, by Indonesian studios. Does that make it not anime? No, dude. Batman. Listen, Batman the animated series was some of the episodes were actually made by Japanese studios. So is Batman anime? You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, it is. So I'm just calling out Mason Lieberman if he does a run back interview. I'm not okay with this.
I love it. But yeah, let's maybe, but like, I love it. No, it's really good. But like, if we go to like an anime like Tower of God, like I'm a huge fan of that series. So seeing that you worked on that, like, I'd love to like just pick your brain about like how that came to be, what the process was like for you, like anywhere you want to take it with that.
Sure. Well, with Tower of God, I gotta, of course, give it to, one of my close friends, Kevin Pankin. So he's the reason why I got in the projects. We've worked on a few projects over the almost past 10 years now. And so he came to me like, hey, I'd love to have you on a song or two for this for the series. I'm like, hell yeah, put me in, coach. And so when it comes to anime versus even film or TV or other visual media, the biggest difference when you write for a Japanese produced anime is, unlike film or TV, where you scored a picture, meaning that you're writing music to what's happening on screen, in most cases, right? With anime, you're more just writing for a set of moods. And so for an anime, I was never writing for one scene. I just wrote like, hey, we need a style, we need a song in this style, this length, like this. And then normally a music supervisor who's in charge of the anime will then go in and place the songs appropriately as needed. So that which actually I prefer. I personally don't like to create to picture that much. I find it just a bit restrictive, and it's just, to me, it's not as fun as just writing for a general vibe or mood. So for anime, I much prefer that creative process.
And if you had to compare and contrast that philosophy with like RWBY and collaborating with people with like Jeff Williams, I'd love to like see your perspective, like like RWBY compare contrast Tower of God with like that same mindset.
Yeah, Ruby, I would say, was more, to my understanding, it's been a long time, but Ruby, if I remember, was more scored to Western style, where it was scored to picture. So, like, of the few, and I can't remember which episodes, but of the few episodes I wrote music for, that was like very much like, once again, when you want to talk about a very intense deadline, it was like, hey, in 24 hours, this episode's going live. We have 6 minutes of music to write. Okay, I'll we'll do it. Season one was a that was a rocket ship of a time. No one knew what they were doing. We were flying by the seat of our pants. Literally, I'm not exaggerating with that 24-hour deadline. It literally was, the episode's going live. Here is a half-baked finished episode where animations aren't even completed yet. Please write music for this whole episode. And I'm like, oh no. But we did it. That was one of my first assignments after I graduated college. And like, those are the kind of projects, when you're getting your start into more professional work, being confident to hit those marks, that's, if you can feel confident hitting those bullshit deadlines, excuse my swearing, you can bleep me out, however, but if you can hit those marks on those kind of deadlines, you'll be in a good position for the future for other projects. Definitely.
Absolutely. And don't feel bad about the swearing. This is, be yourself. I'm not censoring anyone who wants to be themselves.
Yeah.
Obviously also like you've remixed and worked with like huge Japanese artists like Flo, Nano, you mentioned earlier. Like I'd love to like get your perspective, specifically like remixing with like let's start with Flo, and then if you want to take it to Nano, I think it was Kumi Koda as well. Like just let's just go down the body of work there with the remixes.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Well,
Yeah.
so it's nice over the years. You wake up one morning to a really exciting email in your inbox, and all those, in almost all those cases, it's just do be like that. And this is all before I even lived in Japan. So with Flow, for example, yeah, just got an inbox one morning from Sony Japan. They're like, this was during COVID, by the way. So they were like, hey, we love what you're doing. We have this, this sub label called Soccer Chill Beats. We'd love to have you involved. We want you to remix this song. I'm like, sweet, sounds amazing. I love the band. I love the song. I love Code Geass. Hit me up. And so the kicker, once again, if there's a common theme to our conversation today, is the deadline was due in 4 days. And 4 days. And on day 2, I got COVID. That's serious.
Wow.
That is a COVID banger, and I got through it. And it sounds pretty okay considering I got COVID.
I think it sounds amazing. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of it. It's also the type of thing where like I'm listening to like the remix work more and more, and just like all works, and there's like this certain like high octaneness to your sound that's like consistent, like from release to release to release. So maybe like just let's slide into this like side quest of a conversation. Like how do you, even like with COVID or like with tight deadlines, like these like what feels like restrictions, consistently deliver such high impact, high energy, high octane music? Like how do you do that?
I think it may just something wrong in my brain maybe, but I just have so much energy in here. I'm also an athlete too because I played tennis throughout my whole life, even through college. So I think I'm just someone who just has a lot of energy. But I think if I get more creative with this answer, when I write music, so you can't really see me very well, but this is a standing desk, right? So I write music standing up, and my philosophy has always been, well, if I'm because a lot of my music is high energy, and if I'm gonna write high energy music, I don't want to sit down in a chair and be like, yes, this is the banger of all time. No, I want to stand up. I want to move. A lot of my own little personal litmus tests of is this track feeling good is yeah, I'm gonna walk around my apartment as the song is playing. Ah, shit, I might even run around my apartment. Like when I was younger, I'd run around like Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm not joking. I would run around like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like if I was Sonic the Hedgehog hearing this song in the background, how would he physically move to this? Those are the things that are really important to me that I think helps lock in like how this whole song feels viscerally in your body. So those are the kinds of things I think about that I think are effective maybe in maybe what you're mentioning of how there's always just high energy, all the time. It's just by design, I think, of how I write music.
I really like that because it really is consistently like high energy. Like another like work specifically, I'd love to get into. Like I had a whole question for it. Is a versus Sayu like that one like is such a. I feel like if you had to like in a vacuum, like what's that high energy like James Landino song like that to me like it's one of the first ones that comes to mind. And I'd love to like see how you like came about like your thought process making it, especially like with the Christmas remix version of it. Like this thing has life to it. There's more than just like it's not one dimensional at all.
Sure. Well, so forgive me. So well, I appreciate you saying all of
Of
this. I
course.
I I guess is there a question? Maybe I'm.
Yeah. I get carried away in the compliments and the questions sometimes, so I totally understand. Like, I just love to hear your perspective, like when you were like even sitting down, or sorry, standing up, creating versus Sayu, like what was going through your mind, like how you even like come to put the music pieces together to create such a like remix, and then like extending
Man,
that
it's been
into like
so.
Christmas versions, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's been so long. So forgive me if I'm a bit foggy on the exact experience of it. Um, I think. And this is not necessarily about versus Sayu specifically, but just more about maybe a general ethos I have with video game music is, for me, I grew up feeling like video game music really teleports you to this like fun world, this fun experience. Even if the game is not meant to be fun in that moment, I always want video game music to be fun and full of life, because that's how grew up listening to it. And I think when I write music, it taps into that inner child in me that I still do my best to maintain and really nurture, um, because I really want to literally celebrate video game music, and I want that feeling of celebration to come through in every song I make, including versus Sayu. Fun fact, by the way, I don't mind saying this. Of all the music I wrote for No Straight Roads, that was my least favorite song. I actually thought that song wasn't that good by my standards. It's so funny how it works out in life, but I sent the song in, and the team was happy with it. But for me personally, I was like, oh man, I feel like I could have done that one better. I don't know. And then, and that song was sitting for probably 2, 3 years. I finished it, I think, because the game came out in 2020 and I finished it
Right.
in 2018, I think. So I was just sitting on it for 2 years. And, over time, you sit on a piece of music and you feel different ways about it. You're like, I don't know. It just doesn't really this. Come to find out, of course, that everyone loves it. If there's nothing I love more in life is to be proven wrong. And it's nice to know that when I, don't feel good about something and everyone's like, no, this was great. It's nice to feel that and feel like, all right, music is not just about my experience. It's about your guys' experience too. And that really helped me honestly re-enjoy the song again.
Right, absolutely. We were talking studio, and I'm a studio person. I would love to like let's get a little geeky here in terms of like your DAW, your plugins, your go-to VSTs. I'd love to like are you working? Are you a Logic person? Are you a Pro Tools person? Like I'd love to just like just know like what kind of software you're leaning towards.
So for me, I've used everything over in my lifetime. Starting FL, then Reason, then Logic, then Reaper, and then I landed on Ableton, I believe. So Ableton's been my DAW of choice for the past 10 years, I would say at this point. I've tried dabbling a bit like here and there or other things, but Ableton still is the go-to just for my current creative flow, especially because I write a lot of electronic focused music. So just the way that it integrates into that creation is ideal for me.
And in terms of like, I'm a big Omnisphere person personally. Like, I love like all the sound libraries in there. Like, what are some sound libraries you like reaching for?
Yeah, so I have Omnisphere. I actually just bought Omnisphere like 3 months ago. I've never used Omnisphere for the longest time. A lot of my sound design is just making it through sounds. I would usually make it through, back in the day it was Massive or Absinthe.
Yeah.
But pretty much these days I just use Serum 1 now, Serum 2. Sure, I'll use presets sometimes here and there and adjust them there. Or I'll take literal audio samples and recontextualize it to a whole new sound. But a lot of my sound design is stuff that I make myself, just to kind of keep the knives sharp, so to speak. So as far as plugins I use, we're using Serum 2, a lot of OTT, a lot of, it's not many plugins, honestly. Vital, I'll use Vital here and there, but I keep my tool shed very small, honestly.
I've learned that over the years. Like, I used to have the crazy like mix bus, and I'm like, I just need a good EQ, a good compressor, a good reverb, a good limiter, and I'm like halfway there. You know what I mean?
It's all you need. I'm saying this with jealousy. Of course, a lot of my music friends, they have like the decked out studio with all the hardware and all of the treated. Nah, dude, I just got here's a desk. That's a keyboard and that's a monitor. It's like there's nothing to it. I always want, to each their own. But for me, I want to remind, I think maybe as young aspiring composers, it's like, no, you don't need the rocket ship setup. You can make bangers just on your laptop.
I completely agree with that. I'm so like in agreement with you on that. I'd love to like also talk about Rare Drop. That was like looking into it, artist management, music publishing. There's a lot going on there. Like, how did like because I think it's one of the more recent things as I've seen like on your website. Like, let's just talk about how it was like founded, how it came to be, what it's about for me. Like, just saying Rare Drop, someone who isn't familiar with it either. I'd love to like just intro that a little bit more.
So I started the company about 5, 6 years ago during COVID, because I had felt so. A lot of the origin stories of, and I'm being a little cheeky when I say this, but some of the origin stories of why I decide to do things is because usually someone in the industry screwed me over, and so at some point it becomes a matter of, well, F it, I'll do it myself. So Rare Drop, not entirely, of course, but I wanted to get more involved in music publishing. I wanted to help my friends. I wanted to help our businesses and what the projects we're doing. Like with a lot of game projects I had worked on, I would ask them, "Oh, what are your plans for a soundtrack release?" And they're like, "We don't care about that." And I'm like, "Well, that sucks." And so at some point, I'm like, "Well, F it, I'll do it myself." And so that's the origins of where Rare Job comes from, is give empowering, our team, empowering the musicians we work with to just get our music out there. And then that evolved then into, being a production team that writes music for different clients of all scales, from AAA to the indies. um, you know Rare Drop has really grown over the past 5 years into this kind of little garden that I've built, where we're bringing all these amazing musicians together, who maybe don't always fit the mold of AAA or fit the mold of like the Western sound, because we work with musicians all over the world. Our current team roster like literally spans like outside of Antarctica, like every continent, and right, like, and I love that. I love that our team is fully remote and it's all over the world, representing talent from everywhere, from so many countries. That's become a newer, greater mission statement for us, is to really bridge the gap between different continents and cultures to create amazing things together.
I really like that. I think it's such a like powerful statement that you're putting as well, because just speaking with like so many artists or so many like there's always a story behind each person that you meet, and like music is like one of the greatest story telling vehicles it's it's there for that, in my opinion. That music allows you to embark on like tap into an emotional pocket that you can't tap into in as easily without it. Have been some like really impactful like relationships or like important people that we should highlight whilst speaking on Rare Drop? Because I feel like I feel the passion when you're defining this thing, like it means a lot to you. So I'd love to like let's highlight some like key like people, key moments that like have helped you like become who you are now.
I mean, as far as people, there's way too many to list. And I know it sounds kind of cliche or whatever, but it's true because you know we work with so many people, and not just musicians now. We're now developing a fashion line in conjunction with our music label Asahi Crew. We're building live events. We built this live event 3 years ago called Annie Bash, which celebrates Japanese dance music culture. And we've done for 3 years now, and now we expanded that event now to other conventions in North America and maybe even in other continents, TBD on that one. But, and that involves it's such a huge undertaking with so many moving parts and people and skills and all these things. So to just name one person would just kind of minimize just how
Right.
just the scale and the excitement I have for everyone we have involved, because everyone's awesome. I'm um I think but as far as what it means to me, it means everything. It's like these people, these collaborators we work with, they don't have to work with me, but they choose to, right? And I want to create something that's not of the mainstream industry for me, because for me, like I kind of was saying earlier, a lot of some of my motivations are built off of companies or people screwing you over, and a lot of that comes from from the mainstream industry side of things. So for me, I really want to build something that empowers me, our team, honestly, the people who fuck with us, to be like, you know what, if you want to enjoy mainstream industry stuff, great, but here's this cool thing that never existed, but we did it, and that's what it really comes back to at the end of the day.
I really like that. I love to like also shift a little bit back into like the game music stuff here, because I'm a particular fan of Fortnite, and seeing you doing the rocket racing version of that was super interesting to me. Like we're talking about like a massive platform with like millions of players. So like, how does like making music or like being involved in a like a project like that versus like even feel like that blew my mind. I was like scrolling. I was like, nah, wait, pause. What are you saying?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's amazing that you can walk away from a project that has just such a powerful name to it. Fortnite, it's Fortnite is a nice one to be able to say you worked on, because that's the thing you can tell your parents, and your parents will be like, "Oh wow, I know what Fortnite is." Right? Most of the games we talk about, even Sonic the Hedgehog, like maybe some parents know, maybe some people don't, but like when it comes to like when you go back to the Christmas family dinner, and it's like you see all your relatives, they're like, "Oh, James, what are you working on?" It's like, "Oh, have you heard of Fortnite?" And everyone goes, "Yes." That is a nice validating moment. And I know for my other friends who worked in the projects, they had a similar experience. It's nice to be able to say, like in the catalog of projects that we're proud of, Fortnite has the one that makes people help understand the magnitude and the effect of what we do and why it's so special.
I love that. I love that. And like there's so many, like I'm really trying to like cover like the the facets that like are so intriguing to me. And I think like we mentioned it briefly with like Sonic Expo, but like there's a whole DJing side of your world that we haven't even like tapped into yet. And so I'd love to like, how do you translate like being a composer, being an audio integrator, running a company, and like where does DJing fall into all of that for you? Because I've always found it so astonishing that you can be, there's a person at a board, two turntables, and the crowd is like so into it. It's such an interesting art form to me. I would love to like see like how that came to be, how you found out about DJing, and like what it means for you. Like to like, I saw the videos, like you put like it's a lot, there's folders on folders on folders, and like tracks on tracks in there. Like it's a whole universe.
Yeah, I love DJing, and it's funny. So I started out playing piano when I was 5, and I hated music. I hate piano, as I mentioned. Um, and I learned later in life it was because I just really disliked the classical mentalities and repertoires of live music and performing that. I didn't like feeling like I had to be perfect. I didn't like feeling like I had to do it in this scripted manner. You have to play the song this way, the way that some old guy 300 years ago who's dead did it. That's not fun to me. But at the time, I thought I never liked being on stage. I just thought, well, I'll just be a composer behind the curtain. That's fine. It wasn't until I was invited to MagFest, Music and Games Festival. It's the biggest video game music festival, I believe, in the world, of like 30,000 people in Washington, D.C. Just happened back in January. And I was invited 10 years ago to see my friend perform live. He was a DJ. And that first MagFest flipped a switch in me, because I saw him perform live at MagFest, and I was like, oh my God, people are going crazy. They're getting shit-faced to video game music. And I was like, what an amazing concept. I had no idea this could even exist. I want to do that. And so that was the transition point of, I don't want to be just the composer behind the curtain. I want to literally celebrate with people, party with people, how much video game music, anime music, and everything from honestly Japanese, creative, the creative arts means to me. That was really the beginning of it. And if I have a goal in all of this, and this is a really cheeky way of putting it, if I had a goal in all this, is I would love someday to be the Skrillex of video game music. That I am this composer who performs music live. Because of course there's many composers, right, who write amazing orchestral music, or maybe they write music for a band. That's cool and great. There's not many video game composers who are DJs, and I want to cement myself in that world. There are composers in Japan who do it, who are amazing, of course. But as far as North America goes, it's not really a thing. And I want to really build upon that and show people that video game music is more than just orchestral music. It's more than just rock music. It's dance music. It's party music. It's fun. It's full of life. I really want to celebrate that.
I really like that. To me, like when you describe that mindset of like, I want to solidify this thing, and I really relate to that in the sense that like I also think like that, like, oh, like this is a podcast I'm doing, I want to solidify it like this. What are some like active steps or like crossroads in your mind that when you think of, oh, I want to solidify that, like what are some things that you're laying on to like further on that path? Because I feel like we're thinking very alike. That like I'm very like not step by step, but like I think through things, and I'm like I want this. What do I need like right now? How can I do this tomorrow? Like what are some steps that you thought of to like continue building into like this, like I'm that DJ for like North American video game music?
There's a lot of ways to go about it. I think, the first one is just to literally build it, right? So for example, with Annie-Bash, we built that event, and, that event celebrates, DJ nightclub culture from Japan, inspired by Japan, but we're remixing video game and anime music in the club. We create this event, we're creating this experience, and we're showing people that this is a thing. Of course, there's tons of conventions around North America too that have, after parties or raves too, right? But not many of them have the composer of the game or the anime series performing that music live. So part of that is just creating that connection. So if I write music for Omega Strikers or for No Straight Roads, now I get to hear it live, remixed, live, on stage. You get to build that connection, be like, oh my God, I never thought I'd be able to hear this music live in this kind of experience. And you just got to keep doing that, more and more of it. And that's my mentality anyway, is just keep putting yourself out there, and you give people an amazing experience. One of my favorite feedback I get from doing conventions as a guest is, James, I've never gone to a nightclub before. I've never gone to a rave, but I saw you and I loved it. And I was like, that's great. And not just for me, but that also plants the seed of, oh, maybe you'll go to other kinds of raves or other kinds of events that have similar experiences. Because I don't want to, it's not just about me. In order for this movement or this thought to be realized, there has to be more of us. So I want to continue inspiring and just having people walk away with good experiences in this way.
I really like that. The other thing too with DJing and like live experiences I find is that you have this like huge crowd in front of you. Do you ever find yourself whilst DJing, you lock in with like 2-3 people in the front row where you're like they're really feeling the vibe? Because like I'm not someone who's performed a lot, but I'd love to like just get into like the mindset or the perspective of someone who's like the main stage, but also a part of the performance via feeling people's energies in the crowd, like specifically like for video game DJ sets.
It's fun. Every show is different, right? But there's always people in the front row, maybe people further back even. There's, some when I'm doing a DJ set, I improvise everything. Nothing is planned. And that's also for my benefit because when I'm doing something live and it works really well, I'm surprised, and the crowd can feel that, and they're surprised. And so also, in the middle of a set, because I don't know what I'm doing, literally, I'll play around. I'll play songs where I'm like, I wonder if the crowd knows this. I wonder if the crowd knows this one. And sometimes, whatever it may be, you wouldn't call it an Easter egg, but sometimes it feels like an Easter egg. It's like, did someone catch that thing I did? And every now and then, some will catch that little like, oh my God, like I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of like the exact one at the moment, but like sometimes I'll remix something that's from Sonic the Hedgehog, and most of the crowd won't know it's Sonic the Hedgehog, but a few people will. And I can see in the crowd who gets it, and they have like their eyes like wide open with their mouth again, like yo, and I'm like, yeah, you get it, you get it. Of course, in that example, like Sonic Expo, everyone gets it. But for different events, I'm always curious who's tapped in to my kind of nonsense.
I like that. Like, who's tapped in? Like, let me surprise you with like a track from Sonic. I love that. I would also like more on like being live and on the stage. I saw on your website like you shared the stage with like people like Lisa. I would love to like, it's like we're talking about like one of the biggest anime singers in the world. I did a whole episode on this podcast like just speaking. If you had to think of like anime like vocalist, like I think Lisa automatically. Like, what's the experiences like performing alongside like very mainstream Japanese artists and like their influence of that on your own work?
Oh, I mean, it's amazing, and more important, before anything else, I always tell people when I get to meet, these amazingly talented, inspirational artists, I meet them and I'm like, oh, you're the sweetest person, like I always want to lead in with that one first because, of course there's amazing musicians, but they can be jerks. But everyone I've met, from meeting Flo and from meeting Lisa, from meeting Nano to meeting, all these amazing Japanese talent who have been able to, me over the years. Everyone is so kind. You don't get to the top. You more or less you don't get to the top, by being a jerk. So opening for Lisa, of course, was an amazing experience. That was all through Crunchyroll. And like the Crunchyroll team is so friendly. They're so professional, and it's hard to really encapsulate like what that really means under the hood. But I think it's like, for someone like me who grew up in a small town in Westbrook, Connecticut, to now living in Tokyo, Japan, 30 some years later, to work with these amazing artists who you dream, you dream of to ever even,
Literally.
be in the same room with, right? It's humbling and rewarding to know that like, if you have a goal in mind, if you have a vision and you're so dedicated to that vision, you can make it happen. And I think that's my main takeaway when I'm reminded of these experiences is like, yeah, like everything is possible. And I don't mean that I don't mean that in a necessarily beautiful whimsy way. I mean it like if you work really hard and you focus and you make the right choices, like you can really make it happen.
I like that. The other thing too here is I was going to ask how, or like not how, like what is the common thread with all these like top performing people that you've come across? And you said like they're very sweet and kind people, and I can only like imagine like how sweet and kind you have to be to like make it to that type of level. But like, what would you say outside of sweetness and kindness is like a common thread for all these excellent people that you've come across? Like, what's like that one quality outside of like kindness and sweetness that just comes back time and time and time again?
Reliability. Oh my God. And and I was in an email thread with someone else, a different composer, asking for advice, and I'm gonna do my best to recontextualize it. I was like, as far as finding success in the industry, the way of breaking down is like it's like a little triangle diagram. And in this triangle, right, one corner of the triangle is your craft. You have to be good on some level, right? Another corner of that triangle is your likability, right? If right, and then the last corner is your reliability. If you don't have all three, craft, likability, reliability, I think you will have a very hard time finding success in this industry. A lot of people have two out of the three. A lot of people, are really likable. A lot of people I meet, it's like they're really likable, and they're really talented, but maybe they're not reliable. So then we can't really hire them. If they don't show up on time, you're screwed, right? Or they're really talented and really reliable, but maybe they're jerks, and no one wants to work with a jerk. So however configuration you want to operate on, I think for me that kind of framework when I talk to people is what really locks in the like qualities to think about. Because I think a lot of people, me included, when I was younger, thought, oh, the best song wins. If I write the best song, then surely they'll hire me. And maybe there's some level of truth in that, in a sense. But once again, you learn really quickly, if no one likes you or you're not reliable to get the job done, it doesn't really matter if you write the best song in the world.
Yeah, not everyone's people are not gonna call you back as much. I'm also like, I'm someone who's like been on YouTube for a very long time, since 2010, and I saw, like, I was skimming through a YouTube channel, and I think you get the YouTube landscape. I'd love to like speak on like how having a YouTube channel and having like really cool vlogs of you like going to expos or like the live streams, like I really see that you understand the YouTube landscape. Like, how important has having a YouTube channel and a YouTube platform has been for you, like as a composer, as someone who's also DJing in this and is in the music and anime music and video game industry? Let's just talk about the importance of like the YouTube channel. I would love to see that, like, strictly from a YouTuber perspective.
So it's funny. I appreciate you saying that. I don't know, like, it is important. I will absolutely say it's important. In fact, with Versus Sayu, I think being the most played, channel, played video on my channel, that video alone skyrocketed the sales of No Straight Roads. The correlation to that data is so clear. For some reason, on a lucky day, YouTube decided we will push this Versus Sayu song, where hundreds of thousands of people honestly in the comments are like, I've never heard this game. I'm gonna check it out though. This song is a banger though, right? And so I think these days, more composers and musicians are more tapped into that thought of the importance of social media and putting yourself out there, because it really is important. It is obviously so important. And as far as YouTube goes, I feel like I'm not always best equipped to give the best advice on YouTube, just because for me, like, I see YouTube as one slice of an entire pie of social media marketing, but it's very important and something that I plan to continue to invest more into, particularly this year in shorts. I have a list of like 20 like shorts I want to do this year, talking about lessons I've learned and crafts, music craft tips and tricks. I have like 30 different ideas I have down. Now I got to make it, but it's something that I think is really important in this industry for sure. Is just getting it out there, and a lot of composers, I would definitely recommend they put a little more thought into it if they have the time to do so.
Absolutely. On like one of my last few questions here for you. Obviously, like LA and Tokyo, like two completely different music cultures, business cultures. I'd love to know like business practices, or like just being a composer and like having that duality between like two huge like metropolitans and two huge like musical cities, for lack of a better term. Like, how has that been for you, like living that duality and now being more settled in Tokyo? Like, what's business been like for you, and like what lessons you've learned through like having the two?
So I'll preface this with in the 6 years I lived in LA, I got 0 jobs in LA. Zero. Like, I got work, just none of it was LA based. And in Tokyo, in the 2 years I've been in Japan, I've gotten more work than zero. Let's put it that way. And I'm gonna be a little bit simplistic in this perspective, but just bear with me. Ideally, you want to live in the city of the specific part of the industry that excites you. For me, a lot of the game industry in LA, or in the Greater California area, is a lot of it's going to be like Western AAA, which there are some really cool games and projects coming out of that industry, that core of the industry, but those are not the ones that I specialize in. A lot of my work has always been in Asia, whether it's been in, Taiwan or Malaysia, China, Japan, of course. So me moving to that location, that region, it has now magnified my network, it's magnified the opportunities for work. So, this sounds kind of obvious in a sense, but I think some people, myself, kind of need to process this in actuality. Because I thought growing up, oh, I could just live in Boston or I could live in LA and just get work from Japan, and there is a flavor of truth in that. But if you really want to min-max your chances, you just got to go. You just got to go do it. If your passion is, I want to work for Sega, I want to work for Nintendo, or I want to work for Bandai Namco, those development offices they're not in the US, they're in Japan. You got to go. So as far as that perspective goes, for people who are interested in maybe the kind of work that I do or the companies I work with, my immediate advice is figure out how to get here. Learn the language. I'm not great at Japanese by any means, but I'm learning it and, bulldozing my way through it. Just gotta get out here, because once you're out here and you show your face literally with these developers and build those relationships, that's when the dream comes true.
Wow. And what was that moment when you were like you've been, like you said, for 2 years, like what was that dream moment when you knew it was the right shift? Because like we're talking about a big change. Like you're coming all the way across the pond. Like that's a big, like I am betting on myself type of moment. When did you feel like you made the right bet, essentially, whilst being here?
I would say I made the right bet probably on month six. About month six of being in Japan, and without getting too into the sauce of it, moving to Japan is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is a hard thing for many reasons, and my cheeky little way of looking at it is every expat foreigner who moves to Japan is going to have some window of their life where it's going to be miserable. It's going to happen either in the beginning or it's going to happen a year later. But there's going to be a window where it's going to be awful. For me, it was in the beginning for many reasons, not necessarily work related even. It's just like you said, it's a whole different world. It's a huge leap. Month six is where it locked in for me, because that was when my network was starting to form. A lot of the personal logistics of living here were locked in. It just takes time to really lock in, and settling into Japan is a whole other conversation for different podcasts, honestly. But for me, yeah, it took about like 6 months, a year up to a year to really be like, oh, this will work out. I made the right choice.
I love that. For me, like I visited Japan and I was like seeing like all the places around and like just seeing the like the studios and like the museums. And there's such such a rich culture when it comes to like just media, like whether it be cartoons, whether it be like just television, radio. Like you could see that it's like there's a real thing that like post Japan trip, you hit some type of wall depression. Like, oh man, I'm back here. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. For you, like, do you see yourself like, is this like for the foreseeable future, like Japan is the place I want to be, or is there like other markets, other areas of the world that like captivate you and have your interest in the way Japan has had your interest for you to move there?
I mean, of course, there's other markets or places I want to, invest in. Of course, Japan's a place in my heart because it just taps into my inner child, of course. But again, one nice thing about being in Japan is you are close to other Asian countries, right? So our team and I we've visited Singapore recently, and we're going to be doing some involvement there. We're working with more Singapore artists. We're working with more Indonesian artists. We're planning to do some trips, to Taiwan. Anyways, without getting the sauce of it, like definitely, our company's goal and our team's goal is really to bridge cultural gaps and create amazing things. And we're living in a digital age where, countries and cultures are like inspired by other countries and cultures in a very direct, obvious way. And so I want to go into these rooms being like, hey, like, for example, like, hey, let's write this song, not just in English, but English and Japanese or English and Korean or, whatever it may be. So I think the world is excited about that cultural collaboration, and that's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. James, I want to say, like, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time today. This was such a very educational conversation for me. I don't know what made you say yes, but just an infinite thank you for you taking the hour with me today. It really means a lot, and it just motivates me to just continue like meeting wonderful people and talented people like yourself with this podcast and this, like, because I also do these anime music covers, and I just kind of like, I could do a podcast about it too, and it's like just been a privilege. And I really, there was no question here, just a genuine, warm thank you from me to you for your time today. I really mean that.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. And likewise, I appreciate you reaching out. Like, I don't take these things for granted, and why I always make an effort to do them, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. If I can help, I didn't have a mentor growing up in any of this. So, if that means, giving some of my nonsense advice or wisdom to you or to anyone who's listening, like, that's to me, why I do all this. It's really to help people and see, let's just make cool shit happen, man.
Yeah, we're all human at the end of the day, and we're all like figuring it out as we go through life. Where can people find your work, follow your tours, support what you're doing? Like, I'd love to, like, just let's take a minute for that, and
sure, thank
gently
you.
Close out.
I mean, easiest always is at James Landino on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. If you want to find out, so we have a music label that I release music on, and our team does, Asahi Crew, the Asahi Crew. We're doing a lot of amazing, exciting things this year. We're producing more live events, celebrating video game and anime music live. So for people who are interested in that, tune in there. Of course, Rare Drop, as far as all the media work we do for game and anime soundtracks, we got that going. So full steam ahead, 2026.
Wow, I love it. How many hours do you sleep? Last question, I swear. Like, do you...
I'm pretty good these days. I try to get a decent 7 hours of sleep. Everything outside of that is just 7 days a week, balls to the walls, just on to the next thing. But I try my best to get some sleep. I'm getting older, so I have to take care of my body. But
right. We're in the same. I'm going on my 32nd year there. I can feel it. That's like you hit 30, you feel the slowdown like month to month.
Feel it, man.
Yeah. James, once again, thank you so much. I'll end the recording now, and I wish you the most wonderful of days. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Talk soon.
Talk to you. Bye.
Bye.